Hi everybody, welcome into Watch Me Wednesday, episode number 36. Today we're going to go on and talk more about the Mountains and Plains Quilt Along. And hey Lisa, how are you? And I can't wait to show you a couple little tips and tricks for getting those triangles together nice and neatly. For the borders. And I want to say I'm super duper impressed. I've been on the Quilt Alongs page on our Facebook page for the Mountains and Plains, and boy oh boy, you people are rocking and rolling this pattern. Some of you have jumped ahead and you've actually finished them. Just in the past couple days there's been some spectacular posts of finished quilt tops, and I want to tell you they're amazing. So thank you so much for posting those pictures. And I know that some of you are just joining in now too, which is fine because we've got new people in on the Quilt Alongs page on Facebook, and they're posting what they're doing and just getting started. So it's pretty fantastic to see people at all different phases, but the results are amazing. So thanks so much for posting your pictures there. I appreciate it. And again, at the end of the video today, I will post the links up above the video on Facebook so that you can go ahead and click over and see those. Hi everybody, thanks for the love. I love seeing the little hearts go by. That's fun. Welcome on in. Hit the share button. We do have a little visitor here today. I've got Quilt Inspector number 1 here asleep. Yep, you can send the love. I'm going to show you. There he is, sleeping soundly next to my sewing machine. Quilt Inspector number 1. He hopefully won't chime in today on the live video because sometimes he's been known to do that. So send little Quilt Inspector number 1 some love, because I'll tell him afterwards that people were watching him. And if he gets a little upset that nobody's paying attention to him during the video, well, I might have to give him a treat later just to appease him. So anyway, I want to just do a couple housekeeping things before we get into the tips and techniques about joining these borders together. First, I want to tell you, I just put up on my Facebook page, which you're on now watching me. For those of you who are on the East Coast, or for those of you who go to Vermont Quilt Festival, I will be there teaching this year. I'm teaching 4 classes. And Vermont Quilt Festival is open for registration. I am their feature lecturer as well, so I would love to see you all at the lecture at Vermont Quilt Festival. So you can check out my event on there. And so Betsy, it's okay that you're behind, no problem. But check out my event on the Facebook page, and then go over to Vermont Quilt Festival's website so that you can register for one of my classes. I'd love to have you in there. Another special event that I have coming up this year in May, if you wanted to join me, is I have a cruise coming up in the Caribbean. But we just announced for 2019, I will be teaching on a cruise to Hawaii, September of 2019, and my good friend Michelle Hyatt will be on the cruise teaching with me. It is through Stitch and Travel, and registration's open for that Hawaiian cruise. So any of you who would like to get a little bit of Hawaii, and you got a ways to save up for it, and it really actually is pretty reasonable for the cruise, so I'd love to see you on. So that's another special event that I have posted on my site. You can see. And for those of you who are kind of in the Midwest, sort of, I guess, Colorado is kind of the Midwest, it's north of us, but I will be at the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum this year as well. So please come join me there. I will be doing a class at the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum. So those are just a few special events that I have coming up that I would love to see some of you at. So check them out. And we're going to get into the Quilt Along tutorial right now. So again, I'll show you my Quilt Inspector again at the end of the video. So hit the share button so that other people can come on in and see these tips, because they don't just apply to the Mountains and Plains quilt. If you like to piece triangles, they do apply to that as well for any quilt. So, so dig out your Mountains and Plains and let's just follow along. So I want to show you first, I did go ahead and I assembled one border. So there's the corner of one and then it goes all the way to the end. So that's one border. That's what one border is going to look like without the half square triangles on. So this is a border completed without the half square triangles. So, but what I want to show you is I want to show you how you're going to get started, okay? So on the border you're going to have, you cut out your left and your right half triangles. So that's real important. And then you've got your strips triangles and then your background triangles, okay? Now last week I showed you this great little tool, which I did post a link for on my website. I went ahead and I used this tool on all my triangles and I'm going to show you. So I'm going to bring the camera towards me so that you can see what I'm doing on the cutting mat. I'm going to face it down. So hang tight there a second and you're going to come down and you're going to watch what I'm doing here. So I'm hoping you'll all be able to see this nice and clear. Okay, so again, the advantage to clipping off the little tips on the triangles is that you end up with a nice straight edge, okay? You don't have any dog ears, and that goes for the bottom side too, okay? So all I did was, if you see on the tool, and I will put this link again because I do have them available on my website. If you see the tool, it does have this 60-degree edge on it. So basically I'm going to be lining it up on my triangle. Up, Quilt Inspector is stirring and he's looking around. So I'm going to line it up here on my triangle and I put it in the corner. Now I went ahead and lopped these off already, but I'm lining up the edges of the tool and then I basically just take my rotary cutter and nip off that corner. If you can see that, let me back it up just a little bit, but do you see where that, I'm just lining it up. Now, if I so desired, if I had a marking implement like a pencil or whatever, you see these little holes that are in here? Those holes allow you to mark your 1/4 inch mark if that's really pertinent to what you're making, because say you're doing a Y seam, you may want to mark that 1/4 inch, which is important because you're going to be pinning at that point. Now, so I'm going to show you how we're going to do the end. I'm going to, because I already did this is the left side of the border because I have the half triangle here. I'm going to show you how to match up and do the right side because I don't want to do another left side. Because I want to complete this border. So basically what I'm going to do is, what happens when you cut those off, if you see when I turn these right sides over, this matches in here perfectly. So if you can see that, I don't have to worry about a dog ear there, and I do not have to worry about a dog ear here. It matches up just like you were matching like a square block to a square block. So it really is important that that happens because then you don't have to guesstimate where your 1/4 inch is. So now, once you've got that there, and I don't pin because it's so accurate, I'm going to take you over here and show you on the sewing machine how to sew that. So you're just going to use your 1/4 inch foot, okay, and I'm hoping you all can see pretty well. I've got my 1/4 inch foot here, and I'm just going to go ahead and start. I have my machine set at 2.0 for a stitch, and then I'm just using the edge of the 1/4 inch foot along this side, okay, coming down and just capturing the two fabrics together, and it comes out really perfect. If you want to take all that guessing out, this is the best way to do it, by snipping off those corners to get that effect, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then I'm going to show you So now, okay, so here we go. We're back around. When I'm a thread clipper, so I'm gonna clip these little teeny pieces of thread. And Quilt Inspector has now woken up and he's watching me intently, so making sure I do it right. So on these border pieces, we are not going to be pressing towards the stripped piece. We are going to be pressing towards your background pieces because there are no seams. No, Quilt Inspector, you may not have my thread. No. So we're pressing towards your background. Now, if you can see here, see how nice and even that is? It's a perfect match there. Do you see that? Right there? Now what will happen when I take this next piece, this next triangle, I'm going to lay it on top of here and I'm going to align my top edge where I blunted it off with the tip there along to the top and the blunt edge along here, and then the edge is nice and even here. So now I'm obviously not going to my ironing board with this to press this open, so I'm going to make sure that's nice and flat. So I'm going to show you what I do here. I'm going to bring you back over to the machine and I'm going to show you how that makes it nice and level. Okay, so we're basically going to do the same thing. Okay, we're just going to sew that 1/4 inch along that edge, riding the edge of the 1/4 inch. And if you want to put your needle down, you can put your needle in down position. That's fine. So if you want to adjust, if you're not pinning like I'm not pinning, but feel free to pin if you're most comfortable with that. That's okay too. So you can see I'm going to come right out at that 1/4 inch. Whoops. And when this opens up, it's going to be nice and flat. Up, Quilt Inspector has awakened. No, you need to sit down, buddy. So I'm going to go ahead. He wants to get into the video. No, buddy. No, sweet boy. He wants to get in here. I'll turn around so you can see him in a little bit here. He's just wandering around now. Okay, so now again, we're going to press to this side, okay? And then you can see, again, no dog ears, and it's a nice straight line across the top. But more importantly, if you can see here, this is a perfect 1/4 inch. No, buddy. No, buddy. So actually, I'm going to grab my purple thing, and I'm going to show you. If you don't know what a purple thing is, you got to get one. I also have those. This here, and I use them in my classes all the time. This little square here is a perfect 1/4 inch. So if I put that here, place that there, I have a perfect 1/4 inch. Let me back this up to see if you could see that. I have a perfect 1/4 inch from the tip of that triangle to the edge of the row here, because that's what I want. Because when I go and sew my binding on, I don't want to catch that little tip of the triangle. I don't want to lose that. I want it to be a triangle, and I want a perfect 1/4 inch. We don't want that point going all the way up through the seam. So that's super important. And by clipping those corners off like we did on all the triangles, by making them blunt, we are able to achieve that very, very easily. So that's how you do that. And of course, you're going to give it a nice press. I didn't go over to the ironing board, but you certainly have to give it a press. And what I do is I mist it with Mary Ellen's, and it makes it lay really nice and flat. So that's one of the big tricks. So I'm going to back you up here, the camera up, so that you can see me again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about putting this together. So I'm hoping that you all understood what I was talking about as far as lopping off those corners and getting that blunt edge that you can achieve for that 1/4 inch seam allowance at the top, because we don't want to cut off those triangles, okay? So then the few things that you have to do, and I didn't get a chance to put the PDF up yet in the Quilt Along, but I will before the end of the day, and I'll put that link in the video as well. So a couple things that you need to do for next time, and actually you'll end up having your quilt complete, which is really cool. So remember the 2.5-inch strips that you cut in the cutting directions. Those are those are your inner borders. So you have to get those cut, and you're going to want to actually join the strips, and then you're going to want to cut two 45.5-inch strips and two 49.5-inch strips. Those are big enough to go around your center squares. Those are the right size. Now, if for some reason when you've joined all those blocks in the middle together, your measurements are different, please cut those inner borders to that, to that size. And the correct way to put borders on, if you were never taught, is you want to measure at least 3 measurements. I usually go through the middle of the quilt and just a little bit above and a little bit below. And you can take the average of that measurement and then cut your strip to that for your side borders. Then press those out. Then you're going to measure again across the middle, top and bottom, or just a little bit above and below, but including those borders you just attached that are pressed out. And then you're going to cut 2 more strips that size, and those are going to be your top and your bottom. Okay, so those will be the size of your inner borders before you attach the triangle borders. Okay, then to attach the triangle borders is really simple. You're going to be you've got to attach 2 triangle borders to the right and left side, and then before you add the top and the bottom ones, you have to add those corner squares. So the corner squares have to be added to, or the corner half square triangles, I should say, should be added to the top and bottom borders before you go ahead and add those to the top and bottom. And then we're going to be pressing towards those inner borders. When you add those outer borders, you want to press towards the inner borders because there are no seams on those inner borders, so you'll definitely have less bulk to deal with there. So that would be the easiest way to press, okay? So that's basically it. I will put up a PDF and put the link above me after I get the video posted, and I got to get the PDF too first as well, and then I'll put that link in there. But a couple links that will be up there, of course, are the one for the little Marty Michelle ruler that I have on my site. So if you do want to purchase it, it'll be available and you can get that. I'll also put the purple thing in there too if you want that as well. So I also wanted to let you know I will not be here next week for Watch Me Wednesday. I will be in Yuma, Arizona. I will be doing a lecture and a trunk show at a guild down in Yuma. So if you're there, I'd love to see you. I am also doing a workshop there. So I will not be doing Watch Me Wednesday next week, but I will be back the following week with some new things. So this is pretty much the last tutorial in this quilt-along. I may touch on it again when I come back on April 11th with episode number 36, so we may touch on that again. But what I would love to see from you, and I'm probably going to create a poll, I think, maybe within the next week or so, listing a few options for the next quilt-along that I probably will not start the next quilt-along until sometime possibly in June. Okay, so we've got time. But I'd like to continue to do a series of quilt-alongs, and I'm going to give you options of patterns that we could do for quilt-along because I want to choose wisely. I like to give my students tips, great tips and techniques. So I'll give you a few options and you all can vote on them. So stay tuned for that on my Facebook page, and then you can go ahead and you can vote. And I'll also put the poll, I think I'll also share it and put the poll in the quilt-along page. So if you know of any friends that might want to participate in the quilt-along, share this video and then also share the poll when I put it up. And I'll probably ask you to share the poll as well. That way we can get more people involved. And the page will remain, even for future quilt-alongs, it's still going to remain the same group that we have, Quilt-alongs with Canton Village QuiltWorks. And I'll just change out the picture on the top to reflect the new quilt that we're working on, which will be really cool. So I will be doing that, so watch for that upcoming. So anyway, I hope if you have any questions about today's tutorial, you can ask them here. But if you're in the Quilt Along, ask them on the Quilt Along Facebook page group, because other people that are in the Quilt Along would probably have those questions too. They'd like to see them, and maybe somebody else has a neat tip or technique too. But if you haven't gone over to the Quilt Along page, definitely go over there and see what some of the people have done with their mountains and plains quilts. I want to tell you, there are some spectacular ones that are happening, and they're in varying degrees of progress, and I love to see it. So if you aren't a member of the group, request access. I will go ahead and put you in the group, and love to see you there. Anyway, that's it for this week. And I will see you in 2 weeks, because I will be away next week. And I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your week. Thanks for joining me. See you all later. Bye-bye.